Guys, this is our first video where I'm here with my beautiful daughter Tracy. We're going to talk tonight about fear, PTSD, anxiety, things like that we've had a lot of experience with, unfortunately, in the past couple years. Kind of started out, it's always been there, but it kind of started getting me thinking when my 10-year-old son came to me the other day. And he said, "Mommy, sometimes when Maya has to use her oxygen, it reminds me of the NICU and I get scared again." And that kind of just broke my heart and made me start thinking that it's not just me, and it's not just my husband, and it's not just Tracy or the people who were around during Maya's birth that were affected, but it's the entire family. And if you've ever dealt with fear or anxiety or PTSD or any mental health issue in your life, you know that sometimes it can become just all-consuming. Fear, the definition of fear is that it's an unpleasant feeling triggered by the perception of danger, or even whether it's real or imagined. It doesn't matter. It's just, you just fear it. Fear with a medically complex child is realizing that she has a fever and wondering what's going to come of it. You don't panic necessarily just over that fever, but your senses become heightened. Tracy and I sat here tonight and we experienced fear because this is our first video. We don't know what people are going to think of this. We kind of look like fools right now. But we're doing it. We're overcoming that fear. If it had gone further than that, if we'd started getting jittery, heart palpitations, things like that, then we'd be talking about anxiety. Anxiety is the intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. So when it comes to things involving Maya's care, that's things of oh my gosh, she's got a fever. What if it's sepsis? What if it's a internal infection that nobody can recognize? And what if she stops breathing? And we've got all these thoughts just constantly streaming through our heads of the what ifs. And for a lot of us, they're a daily thing. They don't really leave us. And that's where the anxiety really hits us. We're just kind of always on edge. I know Tracy has a lot of anxiety issues here and there too. For those of you who don't know, Tracy was with me throughout the entire labor with Maya. She witnessed her birth. She witnessed Maya fighting for her life. She was there as often as she could be in the NICU. She saw things that she was 16 at the time, no 16-year-old should ever have to witness. And there's been a lot of things that she's had to work through. We try to help her work through them as much as we can. She's got some amazing friends. Hi, Cody. Hi, Kendra. We love you. She's got some amazing friends and some amazing family that really help her through things. She's got an incredible youth group that prays with her. So she's getting through it. But I want to talk about how these things really hit us. Because most people don't know that just everyday stress can lead to more and more anxiety. And that in turn can even lead to PTSD. And for those of you who don't know what PTSD is, it's crippling. Let's just put it that way. It's crippling. Go ahead.
It's like you see something suddenly, or you hear something, and it reminds you of something else, and you just kind of freeze, and you're like paralyzed with fear, basically. Like, for example, the other day at work, there was a really bad accident outside work, and nobody was hurt, but they had cop cars out there with flashing lights and everything. And I actually had to back away from the counter and take deep breaths because the lights reminded me of Maya's birth, and it was not a good situation, to put it one way.
It's when things just trigger you out of nowhere, you don't expect it. And you can have nightmares and flashbacks. You can have unwanted memories. A lot of times people will avoid certain situations just so that they don't have to experience that again. I know for me, personally, one of the things I avoid is, honestly, any clothing that reminds me of the clothing that I birthed Maya in. I've thrown away perfectly good clothes because it just sends me into a panic when I see it. Another trigger for me, a really big trigger for me, is helicopters. And Maya never rode in a helicopter. She was going to ride in a helicopter, but it was quicker for an ambulance to come and pick her up than it was to go in a helicopter. I don't know why helicopters trigger me. It could be because she was going to ride in one. It could be because her NICU room was right outside of the helicopter pad. It could be just some weird reason that I'll never understand. But when I hear or see a helicopter, I start to panic. I break down. I've actually hit the floor crying. I can't breathe. It just, like I said, it hits out of nowhere. And it's just debilitating.
So what are some of your top panic attacks? Like things that trigger you, if you don't mind me asking.
Well, one of the biggest things I have is driving. When I'm driving to and from Maya's therapies or doctor's appointments, things like that, my mind wanders. And I've learned how to combat that a little bit and stop the wandering. But when my mind gets to certain things, especially if I've seen a Facebook post, I've had a lot of friends recently, and I'm so excited for them. I've had a lot of friends recently that have had babies. And I'm so, so happy and so excited for them. But at the same time, I panic. It's a really hard thing for me to see those newborn babies and realize everything that we missed out on with Maya, everything that we may continue to miss out on with her, seeing those babies without tubes in their mouths and in their noses, and just realizing that they're healthy babies and we didn't get that. Even right now, I'm shaking just thinking of it. I'm not unhappy for the people that got that, but I'm jealous, I guess you could say, maybe. And it does send a trigger of panic through me, just what could happen to those babies too. And are their mommies watching them closely? And I know you are. I know you mommies are watching your babies. You're doing a fabulous job, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But it's heart-wrenching to me to see that. My biggest trigger is people wearing black shoes. I don't even look at people's shoes anymore, because if I see black shoes, I will just fall to the floor. I will collapse. For those that don't know, when Maya was taken out in the ambulance, I was still on the floor. I had just birthed her. I was still on the floor. And I didn't even see the EMTs' faces. I didn't learn until several months later who they were. The only thing I saw and the only thing I heard was my midwife passing Maya up to the EMTs, and I just saw black shoes running out of my house with my baby. That's all I saw. And I didn't know if the next time I saw my baby, if she was even going to be alive. I had no idea. So to this day, black shoes are a huge trigger for me. Obviously, with all the care that comes into her life, any weird beeping noise. And we can laugh about it when we're not triggered, but any weird beeping noise just sends a shiver down our spine, because it could be her pulse oximeter. It could be her oxygen running low. It could be her feeding pump having issues. It could be any number of things, and it just, when you hear that beep at 2 o'clock in the morning, you sit straight up in bed. And beads of sweat just form right here until you know exactly what it is that's going on. So I guess those are my top triggers. I have a lot more. I have a lot that sets me off. For the most part, I've learned how to kind of combat them and trained my brain to just calm itself down. But what are your triggers? I know you've got a few.
There's... Sorry, I choked on my own spit. Which is actually one of them, is I cannot handle choking noises, whether it's real or someone just playing a joke, because I saw my baby sister not breathing, and I don't want to go into detail, but there wasn't much color to her face like someone who is choking on something. So that's a big trigger for me, is people choking or making those noises. There's a lot running through my mind right now, but much like my mom, helicopters, ambulances, cop cars, anything with flashing lights like that.
And that includes even in movies. There have been a lot of movies that Tracy and we used to have date nights and just watch movies together. Mm-hmm. And there have been a lot of movies that we've had to give up because we will both go into a panic.
There was one movie, Hours, that I couldn't even watch for 2 full years because the baby was in the NICU, and it's a really good movie, but after seeing what we both saw, I couldn't watch it for the longest time.
And I still haven't brought myself to watch it.
And anytime I've watched a movie where somebody has stopped breathing and they need to perform CPR, or even there was a book I read where they had to perform CPR, and I broke down crying every time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's several triggers, but those are definitely the top few.
And the crazy thing about those triggers is we don't know what they are. Like, we know what those ones are because we've experienced it, but we don't know what a trigger is going to be until it actually happens. Mm-hmm. And so we could have 5 triggers now, and tomorrow a brand new one could come out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. We could have a bad dream tonight and all of a sudden be triggered again. We just don't know when it's going to happen. So, another question for you, Tracy. How often do you think that you have panic attacks? About how often would you say they happen for you?
It really depends. I used to get them at least 2-3 times a day, you know, and that's gone down quite a bit, but it is still higher than I'd like.
Definitely higher probably than the average person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm the same way. Like the first year of Maya's life was really bad with the panic attacks and the triggers and whatnot. Even depression at some points. Over the past year, this second year of her life, it's gotten a lot easier. I don't know that I shouldn't even say it's gotten easier. I don't know that it'll ever get easier, but we've just kind of learned how to deal with it. We've learned what triggers us and how to avoid it. Like I said, one of my triggers, or one of the things that leads to triggers, is my mind wandering when I'm driving. So I've learned that I have to have music going, and I have to be chewing on something. I eat a lot of sunflower seeds. It's not been good for my teeth, but I know that I have to do those things in order to keep my mind at rest so that I don't go into a panic attack. So I would say I probably still have panic attacks 2 to 3 times a week at least.
Okay, so other than music and sunflower seeds, are there any things that help you to get out of having panic attacks?
A lot of times when I have a panic attack, I have to actually grab Maya and hold her. That's one of my big things. I have to actually feel that she is breathing. You know, my sweet husband, James, who you'll probably see in later videos, he is amazing. He tries to comfort me throughout these things, and he does a great job. And sometimes it means just grabbing me and holding me tight. Other times it means he's goofy. He says a stupid joke, or he puts in a stupid movie that ordinarily would just tick me off because I'm not a stupid movie type of person. But, you know, he puts it in, and in those moments, it does help. Sometimes picking at things. Right now I'm picking paper off of a sheet of paper. Just picking at things. I shouldn't do it, but I do bite my fingernails. You know, I would like to take up some kind of knitting or sewing or something that I can just get my hands busy with. Of course, it's hard to do these things when you have a medically complex child. You have to have time for it too. So there's things that I do, and there's definitely things I don't do. I probably don't pay enough attention to the anxiety or the stress, and I probably let it go on for too long before I deal with it. That's one of my big downfalls, is I try to hide how I'm actually feeling. So if you run into me in public and ask me how I'm doing, you might get the typical answer of, I'm tired. And I'll tell you right now what that really means is that I'm exhausted, I'm on the verge of tears, I need help, and I don't know how to ask for help. I've had a panic attack already today, or I'm on the verge of a panic attack. It might mean that my kids are driving me crazy and I just need somebody to come and sit with them for 20 minutes so I can breathe. It might mean that, you know, hey, today's actually going pretty good, but I still need a little bit of rest. It might mean that I didn't get any sleep last night. But my general answer when somebody asks me how I'm doing is, I'm tired. That's the only way I can answer right now. Some days are happy days, other days are sad days. Other days I'm angry. You know, something can happen with Maya's care or with one of the doctors that she sees, and it angers me. So, you know, day to day is just exhausting. But we get through it. So, Tracy, how do you think that stress, anxiety, PTSD, fear, how do you think those things have affected you physically?
I can't go running for fun anymore because that's all I wanted to do when Maya was in the NICU, was go for walks or run. And I can still walk around just fine as long as, much like you, I have music.
Yeah. But
I cannot go running because it reminds me of when she was in the NICU. I remember I went to a bonfire with my youth group, and I twisted my ankle really bad
I
at
remember
one
that night.
point. And that actually still bothers me. My ankle still bothers me sometimes.
And I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing too with the fear, anxiety, is that we will have things happen with ourselves, some type of injury, illness, whatever, and we will forego going to the doctor for ourselves out of fear of what will happen. If they say that we have to stay off of our feet and heal, well, then who's going to take care of Maya? You know, if they say...
That's a big one for me.
Yeah, it's a really big thing. That's a really, really big fear for us, is who's going to take care of her. Not only today and tomorrow, but 20 years from now, if she's still wheelchair bound, if she's not able to communicate. You know, if James and I are old and we can't physically take care of her anymore, who's going to be there for her, to be her voice and to support her?
And another thing that kind of ties into that, I avoid the ER here in town actually, because anytime I go in, they want to do x-rays for something. And x-ray is right by trauma room 1, which is where they had Maya before they took her up to Fargo. And that's a big thing for me. I can't go past there without having anxiety attacks. I actually have had multiple times where I've had to walk past there, or I'm in the wheelchair or whatever, and I go past there and like they're trying to talk to me, and I physically cannot do it because I will break down crying right then and there if I say anything. So.
And I have the same issue. That Trauma Bay 1 at the hospital here in town is a huge trigger. And again, I try to hide these things myself. So I know the first time that Maya was really sick and needed to go back to the hospital, we were put in that room again. And the entire time I was internally panicking. And I don't know if you have ever had an internal panic, which is you feel it in every fiber of your body. It just doesn't come out. Nobody else sees it. And I don't know how to explain that to you really, but it just makes your skin crawl. And I fought it, and we got Maya healthy enough to come back home. And once we were in the door at home, I just collapsed into a puddle of tears. I just couldn't help but cry, because that's where I was literally told that my child wasn't going to make it. She was going to be sent to Fargo, but she wasn't going to make it either way. We were told to baptize her because there was just no way. That's where my child, her life, as far as anybody else was concerned, was ending. And praise God it didn't end, but that memory still sticks. So yeah, definitely PTSD and anxiety and fear, they all have a physical effect. I know for me, I get a lot of migraines.
Yeah.
My muscles are always tense. I always have some form of tension, especially in my upper back and my shoulders and my neck, and it leads to migraines. I have a lot of digestive issues because of it. Your gut is kind of the center of your body. It focuses on everything. And so my gut is overwhelmed right now. I know, like I said, I ignore a lot of things that I shouldn't. I should probably be going into the doctors for various ailments and things of that nature. But I just don't, because, again, who's going to be there for Maya if I go in? And that's we know we live in the reality of that's not the right way to look at it, because we know that if we don't go in and get these things taken care of, and it's something big, then she's in even worse shape. But we have to come to that in our own minds, and come to it in our own timing. And so I think we're a work in progress. We're 2 years in, and we've got a long ways to go still, but we're getting there. And I think together, just, as a family, and with our friends helping us, and our family helping us, and we've got people from across the globe that check in on Maya every day. Hi, Ruth Rodley. We love you too. We've got people from Germany, and people from Sweden, and people from China that check in on us. And you guys make all the difference.
I actually had a coworker that I just met like 2 days ago that I was talking to Maya about, and he actually wants to know more about Maya's story too.
Awesome.
So yeah. It turns out he's Christian and found out about her, and he's been praying for her too. So,
that is so awesome.
Yeah.
And we've got people that have walked this same journey ahead of us, and they're there for us every step of the way when we have a question or a concern. We've got people that experience the same types of disabilities as Maya that are there for her and rooting her on and supporting her. And so we've got a great support team. So we know we'll get through this. We just take it day by day and just live in faith that God's got this. We don't have it. There's going to be days that we fail, but God's always got it. And so I guess to finish up tonight, I just want to read a quote that I found that it really speaks to me, because this is what I want to be. When it comes to fear and stress and anxiety, this is what I want to be. And the quote says, "She made broken look beautiful and strong look invincible. She walked with the universe on her shoulders and made it look like a pair of wings." So that's where I'll leave you tonight. We love you all. God bless you, and have a great night. Bye.